Welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you're home, comfy.
Yes.
Yeah, this is way better.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome. I'm glad that okay. Now, home. What's up with this? I don't know what's up with this now. Way better. Where are my IT people to help me out here?
We're getting feedback.
I know. No, actually, is this streaming? Up with this now. Way better. Where is there we go.
Okay.
Good now. No. Hi. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O.
Dr. O, excuse me, he's not recording, so.
Which is not recording?
Live stream.
YouTube is recording here.
Oh, normally
it's being recorded here. Sorry.
Normally we'll show on the screen that it's recording, but it's not showing there.
Okay. Can anyone else please check to see if YouTube is being recorded on your...
It's recording.
It's recording.
It's recording, Dr. Ajagbi, and I see it.
It's recording.
Well, I can't. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, though, for looking out. So again, welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. I am Dr. Toyin Okpesomi, a family practitioner. I treat HIV also and drug addictions in Maryland. And I host Medical Mondays with Dr. O. October is Domestic Violence Month. And we are going to be talking about domestic violence all this month of October. Last week, we kicked off with domestic violence and stalking, which people hardly ever talk about. Tonight, we have our own brother, Prince Maduka Nkuku. And, you know, some people have titles before their names because they want titles. Prince Nkuku is a real prince. And I will let him complete his introduction. One of our, giants in our community is also our incoming president at the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC. And without much ado, I yield the floor to you, Prince.
Thank you, Dr. O, and good evening, everybody. My apologies that I wasn't properly situated before the meeting started. I was actually on schedule until the traffic had some unforeseen conditions. So I apologize for keeping you guys waiting. The doctor has done a good introduction. I don't have much to add other than the fact that I am an accountant by profession. I live in Los Angeles, and I have been in the forefront of social activism for our community ever since I knew who I was. So there's nothing new that I am currently the treasurer for this NAPAC, the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee here in California. I'm also the political director and the president-elect for the NAPAC USA National. I moved to Los Angeles from Texas. Texas is where I went to school. That was my first port of call when I came to the United States. I went to the University of Houston. And I found myself in Nigeria during one of my visits, and I met a young lady. And I guess I'm jumping straight into the topic of the day, but I probably need to state that the reason why I agreed to do this with Dr. O was because of my concern for the epidemic of domestic violence in our community and the consequent cases of murder and killings that we've seen in our community, where man kills wife, wife kills man. It becomes so rampant that it has become necessary for us to x-ray what the root causes of that could be, because for whatever reason, it appears to be worse in our community. Maybe because we're from Nigeria and we're focused in our community, but there's a lot of that incidence of people dying from fighting in the house, and we want to know what is the cause, what is happening in our community, why are we having so many people killing themselves? Well, I happen to be a victim myself of domestic violence, domestic abuse. And when I was talking to Dr. O, because this is the month for domestic violence, and I shared some of my experiences with her, and how we came into that was that I said to her, well, you know that domestic violence is not just a man beating a woman. She said, yes, of course, that's common knowledge. I said, well, maybe that's not so common knowledge. I am not somebody a woman can, or no, I'm not somebody that somebody can beat up easily, physically. So when you say domestic violence against me, it is not necessarily of the physical nature. And we began to x-ray that aspect of the violence, which is when it's defined broadly. Of course, all of us here know that when you define domestic violence broadly, it begins to include verbal abuse. It begins to include conduct in the house that puts the human being, forget if you're a man or a woman, that puts that human being in a state of discomfort and makes them feel worthless, the state of demoralization. And to me, that form of non-physical domestic violence is worse because it could occur every day, every minute, every month in the house, because you don't have that physical manifestation of the abuse or the insult. Because I don't think the physical abuse can go on daily. Neighbors or somebody will see something. So it makes the non-physical one is even much worse. And that can happen from a woman to a man, just as it could happen from a man to a woman. So most likely, then, because of why some men are unable to control themselves and allow themselves to go out and do something that is, of course, not acceptable. None of us here accepts killing your wife or beating your wife physically as a solution to or appropriate response to being abused. In my case, I experienced what I just described: the verbal insult, the talking down to, there's a way somebody can look at you, you will know that they're looking at you in a contemptuous way. All these things happen in my house. And in my case, just like some people who find themselves in this situation, I had married from Nigeria. I lived in America for over 25 years before I ended up going to marry, because I came to America when I was 17. And I married from Nigeria. And little did I know, the person that I was bringing across was going to turn around and become very abusive and conduct themselves in such a way that if I hadn't been privileged to come from a place where that was not condoned, I would have been tempted to get physical. But in my case, my ex-wife, even got physical with me. Like when a woman would hold your tie and ask you, what can you do now? I mean, if a man does that to me, I don't think I'm going to discuss it with him. I'm going to retaliate. But it's your wife in the house, that's difficult to respond to, especially in Texas. So you can see that the reason why some people, some men, are unable to control themselves is because the abuse can be so consistent and so demoralizing to the point where you, the man, begins to look at yourself and feel like, well, could I really be this useless? And our social, our community, our society does not encourage men to speak out when these type of things happen. And furthermore, for me, I didn't even realize I was being abused. Frankly, it took me a minute to come to terms with the fact that, come on now, this is not okay. This is not how my parents. I didn't see this in my household. As I began to come to terms with this, I began to now compare my ex-wife's background and mine. And I began to see that the reason for this could very well be that I may have stepped out of my social circle to marry. And there's no condemnation of any circle here. It's a case of, if you stay in your lane, you're probably less likely to get into trouble. I mean, the rough person can stay in their lane with a rough person, they will get along very well. And that you probably are privileged to have come from parents who set things straight with you, if you get in their lane, you can't survive. And if they come in your lane, they're going to shift things because they can't understand normalcy. So my experience led me to meet other friends who are beginning to have domestic problems in their house. And we began to see that there is a pattern of abuse and dissonance in a house when the two people who are married come from distinctly different backgrounds. And what I mean background is social background. They can come from the same tribe. They can even make a difference. The strata that they come from can be a factor in how they're able to deal with stress that comes in a marriage situation. And earlier on during the event discussions that was going on here, somebody made mention of most likely people who come from a background where they were so deprived have a tendency to get into these things. And I think the doctor said, not necessarily, because there's this Hausa, very wealthy family that killed his wife. He had been very abusive, killed his wife. So is it poverty that made him kill his wife? Was it? No. So could this be where poor upbringing stops and a little bit of mental health issue takes over, where the person conducts himself where he feels so entitled that he can just kill his wife and then nothing happened to him, ultimately, really. So could it be that, yes, some part of what makes a woman abuse their husband so badly in the house could be because he was poorly brought up? Could this also be that when we get here, the stresses of the societal stresses and changes that we go through can create some sort of mental challenges that now exacerbates an already poorly brought up person to now get to the next level and do something, continue to abuse their husband and tempt them to do something that is not acceptable, which is to lay your hands on your wife to the point where physical harm is caused, even in most cases, death happens. So in my case, I have 3 boys. In my case, the abuse continued to the point where I also consider this an abuse, to the point where my ex-wife actually took employment in another state and moved away and left me and 3 children. The youngest was 6 years old. The middle was 9 with Down syndrome. And the oldest was maybe 14, and she moved. Took her car, put it in the container, shipped it, and moved to another place with her mother. To me, this is also a form of abuse. Not just me, that the abuse was now beginning to extend to the children. And no father would like to see their children in distress because a 6-year-old boy doesn't care whether the mother is a monster we say something where I come from, monkey no fight, but the mama like him. No matter how bad the mother was, the child was crying for the mother. And that was painful abuse. The abuse was now beginning to filter down to myself and the children. And it became clear to me that this is not just a case of poor upbringing. There could be, like I said earlier, most of these people that find themselves in this situation potentially probably have other psychological issues that are a part of the cause of the conduct that causes a family to fall into the kind of condition that I ultimately fell into. Because, of course, out of the need to give my children a good place to be, we had to go through a divorce. And it was contentious, abuse all over the place, and things that could cause you to do what you're not supposed to do. In my case, my family advised me to leave the state entirely. And I left, to avoid confrontation that could result into the kinds of things that we don't like to see. So men do go through abuse in a different form. In my own case, my ex-wife was not particularly small person. She could if I don't respond appropriately, she could actually beat me physically. So there are cases where the woman could beat the man too, physically, in addition to the verbal abuse. So the question now, because I have boys, I have to worry for them to be in the same situation that I found myself. What does a man do to prevent being in the situation where you will now end up in fisticuffs with your wife and somebody will now die and families will be ruined? Is it that this is more prevalent amongst people that come from Nigeria that are married here? Or our children that are born here in America that marry each other, are they going through the same thing? I don't know. These are things that we need to be looking at. Is it something that is common with people that came from Nigeria? Could very well be. And then if that is the case, is it because of the economic condition that is prevalent in Nigeria now that's causing people to come here and then when they get here they change? Or is it that people who go from here to go and marry should probably marry their type or not somebody who is potentially subservient, that they see, and they get here and they're no longer subservient, and they free up. So the reason why I agreed to do this was not to give an account of my experience, because by the grace of God, I was able to manage. I've been able to manage my experience, but I would share with anybody who's going through a divorce that has a child with disability to be prepared. It's a different level of divorce. This is kind of thing that if I had somebody to advise me, somebody who had gone through this, that had exact my same condition with a child that is nonverbal, the process is different. It's very strenuous. These are things that can be avoided. Certain things can be avoided. Certain things can be, if you know ahead of time, you can address this appropriately. So the abuse continues. Divorce has been done 8 years, 9 years. The abuse continues through the children now as weapons of the abuse, to the extent that one has to minimize physical relationship interaction with the ex. That way things don't exacerbate and get out of hand. So for our men, because I speak for the men, because I know that the case of abuse against women is 80%, and it's well known, well documented. But because I have boys, again, and most of us that have boys here would know that you have to worry about that. And then the system here is skewed to favor the woman, because I can say that because I'm in it, and I've given enough evidence why they should have taken the children from the woman and given to me. But no, even in the face of the child with Down syndrome crying and killing, I want to go with daddy, the court say no. You are in California, it's a liberal state. We don't do that from Texas here. Get out of here. So our concern should be to see if this thing is strict prevalent among people who came from Nigeria. That will come to an end. Like somebody said earlier, Dr. O said, this is not going to come to an end. It's a human condition. This will always occur. It's a case of mitigating or containing it to some extent. The immigration population that's come from Nigeria is not as high as it used to be when we came. So our concern should be our children that are born here and growing up here. What is going on in that community? Are they living like this? The people we met in this country, the Americans, when they divorce, they can go to dinner together. They can deal with issues about their children. They can find a way to address their children's issues without animosity and be practical about it. But our own, once we divorce, is what to do to. And these are some of the things that are these things that we can address? Where I used to work in the county of Los Angeles, a woman once told me that you immigrant Africans, do you know you can get funding to address some of the challenges you face upon arrival here? You can get funding. There's money for those type of things if you know what to do. So my purpose is to see if there are resources that we can begin to work towards to help men who are being abused and don't even know they're being abused. It could be through enlightenment. It could be through advocacy that shows them outlets of how to decompress. It could be those kinds of things. And I don't think that I have a monopoly of ideas on what could be done in this matter, especially as it relates to men and the abuse that they undergo. There's no excuse for a man to kill his wife or beat his wife, but the mouth, the Bible, those of us who are Christians here who know that what the Bible has to say about the tongue, it's a culprit in this matter. It's unbelievable how you can feel physically beaten by what somebody says from their mouth. And if you're able to withstand it and not react physically, you have tried. But for how long can you do that? And with that, I'm going to take a break and see what the moderator has to say before we proceed, if at all we are continuing along this line. So, Dr. O, I'm going to yield in the meantime and have you make some comments. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And yes, we are continuing in this line. This is all we're doing tonight. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. You are a real man, is all I can say. Because as you mentioned before, a lot of men are going through, but for whatever reason, for lots of reasons, I shouldn't say whatever, they don't come out to talk about it. So when I even mentioned this to somebody, say, men don't get abused. I'm like, yes, they do. And thank you for defining domestic violence to us. That it's not just physical, you have the mental, you have the emotional aspect of it. And I want to say sorry. It hurts to the core when 3 children were left for you, one with Down syndrome, and then it came to divorce court, the children wanting to go with you, and the children were given to the woman who didn't want them to start off with. I told him to take care of them, but she took her mother with her. But, court is court. And we women, we do have an upper edge when it comes to things in the household. And, this is why we're having this conversation, because hopefully every case will be treated as their own single case, and the right things will be done in each circumstance. And because one hat does not fit all. And I hope that this gets out so that is looked at. And in some cases, when the children should go to the man, they should go to the man. I want to take a pause and just say, to Auntie Tawa, we're glad to see you here tonight. She lives in Tampa with all of this, storm and everything that had happened. We thank God for you, for your life, for your bravery. And welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. Again. So, you mentioned when you were talking about the discrepancies that occur when it comes to social strata. That may be a cause of this domestic violence in the household. And I want to concur with you. I have good reasons to believe that's the case, but I've never had anyone articulate it the way you did. So I want to say thank you. But then I want to shift gears also to ask you what you think about men who bring women from Africa, I've seen, especially Nigeria, slave to send them to nursing school, usually, because the stories we have seen in the newspaper that is causing me to ask you this question are stories of men who bring women from Nigeria, send them to nursing school, drive cabs, work hard to put food on the table, take care of children, make sure that they succeed. And then after they succeed, they start traumatizing the man as far as the stories go. And instead of the men just stepping out, getting a divorce or, bringing the law in, because police officers will step in when they have evidence, they do the needful. We have law enforcement officers that are just awesome and they do their job to do the needful. Instead of doing all of that, they actually kill their wives. I know you mentioned it, that you're totally against it, but what's your take in that? That level, where do they get to make them then come to the conclusion that they have to end somebody's life? And for the women also, I mean, what is it that because a woman is making more money, there will be no peace in their house anymore? What's your take?
Thank you, Doctor. I believe that if I were to, let's say I have a young man and I would advise, person comes to me and say, bros, I see one woman for Nigeria I want to marry. I would like to ask that person some questions about the woman's background to the extent that another person can know another human being. Because human beings are, somebody said here earlier, we are the most unique creatures to decipher. But there'll be some basic things. I'm an Igbo man, and in Igbo land, before you marry, in those days, you are advised to go and ask questions. Just basic question about that person's family background. Oftentimes, there are certain things that run common in a family. It could be madness, it could be stealing, it could be promiscuity, it could be a number of things that you can find out by just a cursory research. And the rich Oyibo people, they do it here too. They will put a private investigator and check their child's potential suitor out. They do it. So I think that the problem starts with somebody goes from here, a man in his mind wants to get married somebody that can make money. That too is a problem. If you go to Nigeria, okay, you're looking for somebody that is a nursing or a doctor that can come here and make money, then the seeds of discord is already sown, because this is no longer an organic relationship that is about to develop. There's a preconceived intention to use this person to make money. So whatever people are going to subsequently do is already laid on bad foundation for both of you. So man lives here, America, goes to Nigeria looking for a woman that has a medical degree or nursing degree, finds a woman. Woman herself is looking for a man in America. Whether he's fine, short, or tall is not an issue. Can he take me across? Already, the seeds of explosion has been sown. So they get here, as always the case. The man probably didn't lay out the true state of his condition here, that what I do is I drive cab or whatever. We all know these things. He doesn't say it the way it is. He gets here. A woman that is in Nigeria, maybe that lives in Aba or Owerri or whatever, or Gomosho, gets here, has good intentions. And as you know, as a human being, good things will entice her. And then she begins to expect more than she's seeing. This is where that upbringing and pedigree comes into place. And people, when we say pedigree, sometimes we can think pedigree is because we are born in Ikoyi, ate with fork and knife and butter. No, a person from the village can have pedigree. It depends on how the principles upon which that person was brought up. The person was parents are farmers and mother is teacher, local teacher. They can have pedigree. It's the principles, the values that they were brought up is what's really, when we say pedigree, that's what we mean, not Mercedes-Benz butter eating Ikoyi brought up. No. So this is where that becomes an issue. If that person was brought up with the right values, and they get here and things are not exactly as they had perceived, their ability to stay the course is dependent on the values that they have in them. This is why if you did your brief research about that family, if there was something untoward, it would come up. It would have come up. And then that would be left to you to, if you are a man that goes by face and body, you can say, I don't care what they're telling me, I'm going to move ahead with this woman. So, to a large extent, where we are coming from at home, if this is a case of a man from Nigeria, a woman from Nigeria, and a man from here, the family background, the social circumstances, the social circles that person is coming from, the value system that person grew up with, is what's going to help them deal with changes that is inevitable. My father was a soldier, was a colonel in the army, and he will tell you, every plan is good until you guys enter the theater of operation. Once you fire the first bullet, things change. So when the woman comes from Nigeria to here, no matter what she was, so what is it that's going to keep that person stable and able to deal with the changes without beginning to insult the man? Same thing for the man. If the man had the right values and his wife gets here and begins to abuse him and begins to show a behavior that could cause him to, what is it that's going to prevent him from acting in a way that will cause harm to her and they put him to prison, and if they have children, the children will not suffer? To me, in x-raying this thing with my fellow brothers who have had the same experience that I have had, in we talking back and forth about it, to us, it boils down to that value system that each person was brought up with. Now, where does the value system and this give way to slight mental illness? Doctor, you're a doctor. I've been told that there are a variety of mental illnesses, more than 50 of them. So it's a spectrum. Where does lack of proper upbringing stop? And where does mental health issues step in to exacerbate the situation? I don't know this. You're a doctor, you probably could say, where when external circumstances can influence somebody's psychological well-being and mental well-being to the point that they begin to fall into one of the categories of mental illness, where the abuse takes a different shape and form. So, in a nutshell, to me, based upon my experience, the values that the person has, both of them, is going to be a factor in how they manage the inevitable challenges that every marriage would have. And today's Nigeria is not the same Nigeria that we left the other day. Somebody talked about, Dr. Gunloye spoke about when everybody could afford to eat and it wasn't. Today's Nigeria is not the same. Somebody who was not planning to steal in January, that was not stealing, taking bribe in January, by now, this is September, because of conditions, could be reconsidering their options. So the economic situation in Nigeria is potentially a part of the problem we are having, because human beings, like Dr. Gunloye said, God gave them money to keep. The money is in your, you're holding the money, your son is crying, you're having to, why would you not put your hand and feed your child? You see, so these are some of the problems we're having. So, Doctor, I'm going to take a break here and see and allow you to.
Thank you so much. And if anyone has questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box. Did that mean that you came to the US at the age of 17 and you were married?
No, I came here, I stayed. Like I said, I've been 25 years here before I went back. So 20 years before I went back to marry.
So in your case, being a prince, how did that process go? Because how was it, I know that in Nigeria, in most families, whether it's Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, backgrounds are checked before people get married. And when it comes to the royal family, it's even more stringent. So how did you end up, in this relationship?
This is where I take full responsibility for where I ended up, because having lived in America before going home, I was no longer listening to my parents. This is where that exorbitance is expensive, costs you. My parents, I didn't show them the full hand of what I was doing. And by the time they got involved, woman was pregnant. and they did not have an opportunity to do an in-depth check. And in my case, my wife was of a mixed tribe, half Igbo, half Hausa. So we met in Lagos. We was not in a setting where my parents could have done what needed to be done. And I convinced them, don't worry about it. You know, I was been in America. What could they do? Say, well, you know, you're on your own with this. And it didn't take long for me to see what they meant. You know, they never had, I didn't have the full participation of my parents in the lead up to where we ended up. So that's another thing that, which made it possible. Same thing, made it possible for me to bear my cross without blaming anybody, because I knew how much of a role I played in where I ended up.
So I guess the reason I asked the question is we all have children, grandchildren now, and it's important that we instill in them things that can help them to prevent situations like this. You are a survivor, thank God. Many are not so lucky to sit where you sit and be survivors. And thank God you came out unscarred. Or maybe I went too far there.
I think so. Let me, you see, in the case, and I don't want to personalize, because the reason why we are doing this, because we're trying to see what is it as a community that can we do to help our brothers who may be in an abusive relationship, marriage specifically. In my case, I live in California. When I go to visit my children, and the one with Down syndrome sees me and he wants to go with me, and the mother says no, and you know this boy doesn't want to stay with you. It's difficult to explain the pain. So I didn't come out unscathed. As even this is what I'm telling you, see, it will happen tomorrow. You know, so I didn't come out unscathed in my unscared in my case. And you're asking yourself, the abuse continues because one of the lawyers who was handling our case told me that she was divorced and her son, she got custody, but the son wanted to be with the father. She said, go, what is your father? After the kid became a doctor later and came back. So in my case, this person could very well let this boy go with me because he wants to be with me, but she wouldn't. So once again, I don't want to personalize this, but the abuse is continuous. And Dr. O, I told you something the other day when we were speaking. I said to you that the Igbos have a proverb. They say that a bad dancer will dance the same dance at every party. The person who could walk away from a child that has Down syndrome, a 6-year-old, and comfortably move from Houston to New Jersey. It's not if you move to Austin or move to you move to a place where it's 3 hours flights and you can't come once in 3 months. It's not going to change overnight. You know, this is not going to change overnight. So, but this is where we say when I say to you that some of these things are not just about value or bringing values or what have you. There could be a case of Mr. Trump. Those of you who are in the medical field know that there's a condition he has. Okay. So a lot of people have that condition. You know, when somebody is unable to say, I'm sorry, when somebody cannot see good in anything, when somebody has no empathy, this is another area. And then you want to express some of the people that cause their husbands to eventually kill them. Do they fall into this spectrum? Is there a particular population of women that do this type of things that make a man so mad that they cannot control themselves? And then the men themselves that they're doing this. Can you imagine where two people with narcissism meet each other? You know, one person is going to die. So the pain continues. But again, I take full responsibility for where I found myself in my own case. And, you know, my upbringing by luck has helped me to navigate it to this point. And we have a group, my friends in Texas, that we all went through this type of things. Same situation, married from Nigeria. Well, about 5 or 8 that, you know, ended up in divorce. It was the same thing. They were desperate to come to America. And there are those who came and succeeded, but in our own case, it didn't. So the pain is there. It's not ever over. It's just a case of managing it and being prayerful.
I agree. I agree. Nkechi, you have your hand raised. Kindly unmute. Thank you. Cool music, huh? Nkechi, where are you? Okay, you have two appliances or two things going on together, running together. So if you mute one.
Yeah, so I have a question for you, sir. First of all, from which state?
From Abia State.
From Abia State. Okay, that's one. Then my other question, because the way you're saying this whole thing, do you think we should treat domestic violence individually? It shouldn't be something we should just wrap all the women because they're being married, like you talked about your friends, that you guys are 8 in numbers and they all came and you all fell into divorce. You understand? Do you think domestic violence should be treated individually by the person, the way they act, or you're just generalizing every woman because they are being married from Nigeria? My first question. My other question is, you're saying that women are being favored a lot, they are men in California. Somehow I do sometimes disagree with that, because even recently, a woman that is from Nigeria she's a medical doctor, even at Stanford here, had a little girl, and that little girl was killed by the father and killed himself. She was telling the court that this man is abusive and all that. She was even planning to leave California to move to another state. That same week, this man came and took that child and killed that child. And that was all the thing the woman has. This is a medical doctor that had everything in her disposal to buy the law, to do whatever custody of that child. So can you please explain to me why you think women are being favored? Because I wasn't favored, and I know some women that were not favored. You understand? I was a speaker last week. You understand? So, and I'm asking you, do you think we should treat it individually and find resources on how to help people individually, not just generalize the whole case that women are this because they are being married from Nigeria, they behave this way and they come here.
Thank you.
Do you have all the 3 questions, or should I guide it? You got it?
Guide me, but let me take the first one that talked about
the first one is should domestic violence victims be lumped up together, or should they be treated individually?
When you're doing human beings, you can never put everybody in one bucket. Even though we're talking about domestic violence, one cannot afford to put everybody in one bucket, because we don't know we can never know each person's circumstance in totality. So therefore, it means that you kind of like have to look at each case somewhat uniquely, but also they fall into one category of abuse, of domestic, somebody's abusing the other. Then what is the cost in one house may not be the cost in this other house. But in the case of, because I live in Texas, man, I mean, this occurred in Texas. I live in California now. This occurred in Texas.
You're answering the third question already.
Okay.
If I may lump the second one into that first one, she was asking that, are you saying that all women brought from Nigeria, who came from Nigeria to marry here, say you brought your wife from Nigeria? A lot of men do that. They bring their wives from back home. So are you saying that this is true of all of them, that the women, domestic
violence? That can
never
be true. That would be a false statement. It can't. It's not true. And if I imply that, I would draw that. No. It can't be. It's not that. I know successful cases where children are born, everything is well. So we don't have statistics. We probably need to be working towards keeping statistics. That way we can see the trends. So to answer that question, as from Nigeria, that falls into that bucket. No.
So the third question is about, are women really favored?
I would have to say categorically.
She talked about California. What she didn't realize is that your case did not happen in California. Yeah. That's the first thing.
But let me say that
you live in California now, but yes, your case was not judged in California. My case is still
in Texas, because I still have a minor in that case, so it's still
ongoing.
Yeah. So But in Texas, during the proceedings of my divorce, it is common knowledge. The law for you to take, and this is the context in which I said this, for the courts to give children to a man, the woman has to do something heinous, period. I say this unequivocally. In Texas, for the courts to give children, minor children, to a man in a divorce situation, the woman has to have a criminal record, has to say, I don't want for that to happen. Yes, in Texas, I say that. That is the context in which I say that. Now, if a man does something bad, the courts will favor, if the children to the man. If a woman stabs a man, the courts will take his course on the law will take his course on the woman. So, but in terms of generally speaking, for you to get children in the custody, the woman has to do something bad. So that is the context in which I mean, yes.
Yes.
The courts, yeah.
Thank you. Nkechi, and Nkechi was at speaker last week with State Attorney Aisha Braveboy. Were your questions answered? Kindly unmute. Your deep questions, those questions were deep. Were your questions answered?
Partly yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which part is not answered?
Because he said something about the woman has to say, oh no, done something wrong before the
state of
Texas. Okay.
Okay, let me tell you this, if I can help there. Every state in the United States is different. Even the laws are somewhat different in certain things. Generally, things are one, but every state are different in some things. That in our state now, in the state of Maryland, there are things that we voters have voted in that have been on the ballot that we voted to accept. That if you go to maybe, and I'm just throwing it, maybe Virginia, they don't have any such laws, because they haven't accepted it. The voters have not accepted that. So each state is different. You are both right. It's just states are different. He's talking about
Okay, good.
Texas. Yeah.
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
good? Fantastic. Dr. Buka, kindly unmute. Dr. Buka.
I have another call.
Where-
I'll call you.
Okay, Dr. Ajagbe, we'll take you after Dr. Ajagbe. Dr. Ajagbe, kindly unmute. There you go.
Thank you so much, Prince Maduka. Well, it's very challenging to even voice out what you've gone through. So I would not take that for granted that you're able to articulate it the way you did. The pain is not something that can be swept under the carpet because we all have different thresholds for pain. And particularly when you see yourself as though you know you could do something which could be drastic, but you have to exercise restraint. You have to constantly remind yourself like, sheesh, you don't really want to do exactly what's coming to mind because you know you could do it. So it's a very painful place to be, whether you're a man or a woman. What I've observed over the years, I happen to have, I was married for 34 years, and I knew, what discomfort could be in marriage. But I'm not going to put myself out there to say anything specific about myself. But all I want to say is that every human being wants liberty. Well, whether you understand it or not, maybe if we have some time, some other time, we can evaluate that. But every human being wants some form of liberty. And what I mean by that is this. A woman that came from Nigeria, or a man for that matter, because it's not only women that will come to marry somebody here in the United States or Canada or even in UK. When they cross the boundary or international boundary to get married, every one of them had some kind of experience once they crossed the border. I don't even care what their social background used to be. The fact is that somebody comes across, left their own base where they felt comfortable or seemingly comfortable, and comes across to another place that is totally strange to them. Most of them will feel like they are caged. They are in a cage. The cage is actually unlocked. And once they realize the cage is actually so they can venture out and come back in, wow, well, I can do this. That is when the language changes, when people start saying, oh, their eyes became opened. No, it's always going to be like that. Human beings don't want to be caged. The caging, it comes in the mind. The caging is not physical. The caging comes in the mind. When they tell you this is how people who do this should behave, but you don't want to behave like that. And so eventually people are going to revolt that does that, or a female, it will still happen. Now, when it goes to the extreme of somebody telling you, you are my wife or you are my husband, this is what you're expected to do, and you are saying, no, I don't want to do that. Why should I do that? Because I made that. It doesn't make me to be stuck in that kind of mindset. So that's where the heads will butt. They will butt heads, and then there will be no matter what. So I'm saying that unfortunately, when we are doing this kind of practice together, because the man will have a perspective, the woman will have a perspective. And so it's going to be a situation where you only hear one side of the story. And once you hear that side of the story, do you have any way of corroborating that? You have to take it on that face value. So it's difficult when we are doing a cantankerous situation whereby you bring both parties into the picture. Now you say your side, let's say you say your side, then we can make an objective decision on what has happened. This is not a situation where we're talking about the jury of your peers saying something about what seems to have been the case. What should have been the normal behavior of this person in this situation? So, I mean, when I sit down to listen to situations like this, it becomes very challenging. And I don't want to minimize the pain for either party, but somehow, from my own observation, I can tell everybody wants some kind of liberty. You want to be free to do whatever you really want to do, not having to be held down because this is the decision you made, that you want to marry this individual, and then you say, my husband, you have to behave this way. And the person says, no, I don't want to behave that way. And that's going to always create problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
I can see.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
this was interesting, but as
You're not
one
showing
thing
your
I would
face.
say, as older,
Oh,
Go.
thank you.
as I would say, older folks don't believe in therapy. The Gen Zs do, and I think after having a Down syndrome, it is hard on wife and husband. And in retrospect, I think there should have been some family therapy for the child, and also the fact that she doesn't want to give up the kid is more income for her because
There you go.
and especially if you have a Down syndrome kid. So, and frankly speaking, I'm not sure you can take care of such a kid by yourself.
But he did. He was dumped on
Doctor,
him.
if I might interject, the child in question, just like the previous speaker said, I don't want to personalize this, but because of what you said, the child did not walk until he was 2 years and 8 months. And I only, for me, in my case, took him to therapy from the day he was born, as he could go to therapy until he walked, to the extent that all would ask me, don't you have a wife? Why are you the one bringing this child here? So in this case, just to answer your question, I could take care of him. I took care of him. So in my case, that's worse. Let me tell you this. After the divorce, in my case, she gets the children in Houston, Texas, and she gets a job in Austin, Texas, and moves to Austin.
Well, that would be the law. But I'm not talking about physical therapy. I'm talking about mental therapy may have helped in a bit. But also, I had a friend who had 6 kids with the husband and 4 boys, and I think 3 were autistic. And the 2 girls, the guy got married, had 2 other kids that were normal, and the rest of the kids stayed with the father, all of them until they grew up. So they are he had a better job. She helped to support them, but she went away and got 2 other kids with a younger guy, maybe about 5, 10 years younger. I think he was that. And she had a home. So there are things that happen, but I think mental therapy would have been ideal for the family. And, Alibus sojourners. And it showed the guy went home to marry someone. He came and she was pregnant, and all he was doing was having an American life, hanging out and drinking. And then she found out that he was here for 12 years and he only got 12 credits. When she was in the hospital, he never turned up to see her when she gave birth. So when she came home, child to her compound. This is a Nigerian play by Udo Fia. So she was writing about immigrants who come over and some of the complications. Funny enough, they were in Texas. So join us, just read that play. You would see that this thing happens all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our financial guru. If you haven't talked to Mr. Imodis about financial issues, please do so. Kindly take the floor.
Thank you so much, Dr. O. Thank you, Prince, for sharing your story. I've always thought that this platform, we get together to find solutions to the problems that is going around within the community. So having said that, though, I want to piggyback on some of the things that was already mentioned, and which is how do we go about in terms of data that will be directly linked to what we are speaking about tonight. I say that because I strongly believe that, first of all, let me rephrase that. The percentage of background versus the percentage of learned behavior needs to be identified. And I think, Dr. O, there are lots of psychiatrists in the community that should probably start looking at this, because we brought up correctly the issue with the data. And this will begin to gather data regarding this domestic violence issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a good point. And I'm sitting here thinking, where do one start to gather that data? Especially, you have to start with, this is I think most people on this platform are Nigerians and African Americans. So I wonder if we can start from the Nigerian embassy and say we can have a dialogue, at least to get the data of people coming in, married people. Let's see what I can find out.
Dr. O.
Yes, please.
Let me, if I may,
Yeah.
like the previous speaker said, and which I had alluded to earlier, I believe the reason why we are here is to potentially find solutions to what amounts an epidemic in our community of people killing their wives when issues arise in the household. I think we can qualify for a grant to address this issue, because it's a health-related issue, it's a safety issue, it's an issue that is affecting a particular day. And I don't know that our embassy, going by what we know, with consular services that we receive, can be reliable to get that kind of information, but you can't do without them. They can be part of it. Getting that data is going to help us to get resources that's going to help us that what we're experiencing, some of it will fall into what you guys call the mental health challenges in the society that we live in. Because when you define mental health broadly, it accommodates a lot of things that happen with human beings, including us. Because working within the American system, the embassy will be data, but in terms of a solution and help for people who might find them, the system would have something for us. There has to be something for us that can be used. We start by even finding out how many Nigerians have killed their wives, or how many Nigerian women have killed their husband. That data should be available.
It is. Yeah, that is available.
Yeah, that could be something we can use to say, well, look, we see a problem here. And we believe that we're going to need some resources on how to prevent this and where there's help. So I just
That
wanted
is
to
an
add
excellent
that.
point. You
Thank
know,
you.
if we can get funding, we have people like our speaker Nkechi last week. We need funding. We need funding. We need funding for quite a bit. And so, Prince, I'm going to get with you after here so we can navigate how to do that. Nigerian Embassy is actually, you know, our people there, believe it or not, they are hard. They're working on their own to get data in order to be able to better serve us. They're working hard at now, you know, communicating and reaching us in the diaspora. So we have to meet them halfway too. So we will, you know, contact them to see where they can
So,
fit in
Dr. O,
also.
with the jackpot thing trend, there's more people coming in now through that approach of jackpot. And many of them are going to face the same kind of thing we're talking
It's
about.
huge because the jackpot, they are in for surprises. They don't know what they're in for. Yeah, you're right. This is timely. Nkechi, kindly unmute. You muted back. Nkechi, please unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so
You don't have your camera on. You don't have your camera on.
Okay, so I just wanted to share this with everyone that what really brings it to the extent of killing their wife is that a lot of people in our community refuse to share their story. It's a taboo to hear that I'm going through domestic violence or I'm going through a problem. And so we can have community leaders to come into the home and talk to you and the wife and settle the problem. Most men don't like that. Most women don't like that. In California here, I know a number of women that they are living with their husband like roommates because they refuse to share what they are going through. So first of all, we have to be able to break that cycle of silence. There's a lot of silence that it's in our community because you don't want to tell people what you're going through. I'm feeling too cold. I don't want to share my story. They will laugh at me. And yes, sometimes you even share your story, you'll be the topic of the town. But if there's a way that we can all come together and say, this is a problem, how can we solve this problem? How can we all come together and break this cycle of domestic violence or whatever that is going on, or violence in marriages? That's one. And then when we talk about data should be a data that is so honestly said or honestly taken. Because you see some people, they'll go to party together and do honey, or my dear. That honey, after the party, they come inside, they are enemies. Husband and wife don't even talk, they don't cook, they don't sleep inside the same room. They just pretend outside. So how can we get that data? We should campaign more and do more about this situation. It is very bad in our community. We are hiding a lot and pushing things under the carpet. Thank you.
Hypocrisy.
Thank you. Thank you. Doctor, great points. And I've noted some of your points here. Well, we will get something done tonight. We'll conclude this. Dr. Ogunleye, kindly unmute. Thank you.
Okay, so
hey, beautiful.
thank you. So I heard Prince asking about funding. Here's what I know so far about funding. You're more likely to get funds if you register as a nonprofit organization, which of course we have with NAPA, but also if your service is not restricted to your community alone, if you're addressing domestic violence or for Nigerian Americans. So let's say you say anyone is welcome, you're more likely to get funding for that. But I think what our community needs.
We have that. We have the platform for that. Global Vision Foundation.
Okay. But I think what our community needs the most is thinking they're coming to America to continue to live the way they lived in Nigeria. They forget that in Nigeria, the cultural context is different. Marriage in Nigeria is different. Here, it is if we're able to maybe get through to the embassy when people come in, or when we know people are coming in, we start sending them educational materials about what it means to be a married couple here. Now, a lot of the reasons for the domestic violence, in my view, is the wife role he was playing in Nigeria. Maybe he's the sole provider. and the husband expecting the wife to continue to play the role she played in Nigeria. Forgetting that in Nigeria, we have cousins and sisters and brothers and grannies that help out, even if it's just babysitting the kids. We don't have that here. We don't have that support here. So the support system, when it's lacking, people get frustrated and they start acting out against each other. And we also need to let them retire. Don't do that. Now, if you're going to bring her here to retire, then yeah, do all the domestic work and let her go make the money, shift and still, do domestics. You can't do that. It's difficult. No man will do that. So the woman too is a human.
See?
She can't do that.
Some of us, they did work, come home, cook, clean, do laundry, do everything. Superwoman.
And how are you faring with
I see you.
that?
Well,
Our children will tell us, Mom, that's you.
no,
That's your generation.
I 100% agree with you. I said that actually to buttress what you said, because that's though different, still live like we were at home. It was not easy. It was not easy. But our younger ones are wiser. You're like, I'm not going to do that. And, they work it out. But there are some things in the chat box. I think together tonight, we'll be able to formulate way forward to at least see how we can, possibly start collecting data, interviewing. Dr. Alu said something about digital survey. I'll get to that. Don't let me break the protocol. Unmute. Dr. Yunusi, kindly unmute. Oh, I hope you're not having difficulty. Mr. Lawal, kindly unmute while she's trying to unmute, if you can, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
You have
Thank
to, sir.
Good evening.
You're not showing
You
your
want to see
face.
my face?
You want to see your handsome face.
Ugly
Yeah.
face, huh?
No, handsome
All right.
face.
Good evening.
Okay,
Good everyone.
judge you.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
I know it's very courageous of you, because we don't get to hear the other side of the story. But I am not going to say too much about the funding. You've addressed that. Since we're talking about prevention, I think that's very important. We all have some kind of experience in marriage because we're all married. So we know that men and women to get along. I've heard that we're from different planets. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes you have to be lucky. Sometimes you have to do your homework. One of the things you can actually do is to allow yourself to know the person well enough. If you give enough to do something like this, that is married forever, there's a lot of room for errors. And most importantly, the first one, make sure she's honest or he is honest. If anybody is honest, they'll tell you exactly what you're going to do, what they can take, what they will not take, and make sure the person is fit. You can tell. You can do a give and take. You can compromise. When you deal with somebody you don't know whether he or she is honest, and he or she is fair or not fair, you don't know those things, it gets very difficult because anything can happen down the road. And another thing for people that are not just young ones too, older ones, counseling is good for people that know both parties. Because if you are affiliated, religious or non-religious, and they counsel both of you together, they expose some characteristics that you might not want to reveal, and that can help you too. The disparities, social disparities, not just cultural. It's not about tribal. If you live in Lagos, you grew up in Lagos, and you meet someone in Lagos, you understand the culture already. But if you live in US for 20 years, you go to the person at all, because the way they behave in Nigeria now, it's not the way we behave when we were in Nigeria. You are not the same person anymore. Those are the kind of disparities that can come into play. So I don't know if we can, I don't know how much money we can get from, all these places can get money from for funding and all that, but that will be after the fact. But we want to find a way to see how we can prevent things like this. That's just my own little.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you. Dr. Morenike Oyenusi.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry that I had trouble unmuting for some reason.
You're good. Yeah. So I like the Shepherd's Care.
Thank you. Thank you.
People don't know about it already. That's a book she wrote. And she has shared it with us on Medical Mondays with Dr. O. You can get it on Amazon and those places for children.
Thanks.
So sorry, go ahead.
So what I wanted to suggest, can you hear me? In terms of getting data and doing more research on this unfortunate situation and getting data, getting more facts, I was wondering whether it might be possible to consider involving a university or a college, because I have my daughter recently graduated, and I know she did some concrete research projects in the community. So that just kind of brought to mind the kind of resources that universities offer. Maybe they might be interested in taking this important project on and using their resources to help us do some research and get some data for us.
That would
so
be
that was
fantastic.
just what I wanted to suggest.
And guess what? I'm going to please charge you with that. So please look into that and see who could. They'll be excited to do this, because this is something that hits home. Even the team are not immune. We're not immune to this thing. None of us is. Like Mr. Lawal said, it's a blessing, or it could be luck, for some people. But people who they are bad people, or they did something wrong, it's just unfortunate. And so please help us look into it. I'm sure they'll be interested.
Okay, I'll try my best to find something out.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Dr. Alu wrote here that a digital survey could be deployed to generate an objective data. I love that idea too. And we can throw this to WhatsApp and get thousands of people and to participate. Dr. Alu, are you technologically savvy to generate this? Dr. Alu, kindly unmute and get ready to answer my question.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the research thing.
Okay.
If we can't find a university to do that's at the doctoral level or master's level who's looking for a topic of research, or we can nudge them in that direction, why don't you use this as your topic research?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I'll make a note of that too. Thank you. Dr. Alu, kindly unmute. Dr. Alu, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, it's something that could be done. I think I can do that if I'm saddled with the responsibility to handle the assignment. Something that
thank you. Please, if you can do that, I promise you we'll get a committee of few people so that we can brainstorm the questions or things that need to be asked. We have people who are survivors: Maduka, Nkechi, Aramide, and Dr. Luke, Dr. Atoni Omobolanle. See, I got a group already. That we can brainstorm, questions that can be asked in this survey.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll put you down for that. Dr. Izugu, kindly unmute.
Yeah, greetings. So, Maduka, thank you so much. Thank you, Maduka. Thanks for your presentation. It's not easy. Nkechi, your experience is not easy either. And I pray that God gives you guys peace, because this is a continuous battle. It impacts you, impacts your children, impacts everybody around you. You come in, you know where you come from. So sometimes when these things are happening, it's even difficult to even express it, and but you own to it that you didn't pay attention to your parents, but you did your best, But now that these things have happened, and we're all looking at ways and solutions and how to research into it, I wanted to get a comment from both of you. I know Nkechi spoke last week. What have you seen the impacts of some of these on the children? What have you noticed has been that? So at least, even in looking at solutions for this and what we're looking about research issue, that part of it has to be addressed, because when two elephants are fighting, no matter which one is the correct one, the grass is suffering. So we really have to figure out what are the impacts, what can we do as an organization addressing those children, because the challenges here is humongous, even among those who are being raised up in good, environment with the parents. Now, talk to us about when you're having this type of challenges. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Prince, can you answer that first, and then Nkechi can then follow?
Yes, Dr. Owen. I thank the gentleman. His question for me, is actually the most important question, because these children that survive these experiences, we don't know 20 years down the line what the true consequences of their experience would be. My son, I have a son who's 23 years old. He told me the other day he's not going to marry, for example. And I know that could change with time. But that statement was obviously born out of what he perceives marriage to be, because obviously he doesn't like the fact that I'm not in the house. So on the other side, I don't know what he sees on his mother's side, where he says, I don't want to get married, and because of the value system that we have, I'm also happy to know that he has girlfriends, and it's not as if he's running away from women altogether. So, needless to say, the consequences on the children is enormous. There is just no alternative to parents, to husband and wife, raising their children together. There's no alternative to it. There's nothing that can be better than it. People die, people go to one, don't come back, people divorce. So we do need to, in our study, in our subsequent attempt to address this issue, begin to also look at the children that are a product of divorce situations, children that are a product of where father killed mother or mother killed father. What are the consequences on these children? A study can be done. As far as data is concerned, knowing the ones that ended up violently is the easiest thing to do. You just have to pick a state and with the right, go to the right department of statistics, you will get that. Then, depending on the kind of resources we have, you can follow the children and see the data on how did they turn out, what has happened to that population. And if we intend to continue to do as well as our community is doing in this country, we have to do those studies, and we cannot ignore the role of the faith-based organizations in this country. Our community is big on faith-based organizations. Is it the Islamic Association? Is it the Christians, the churches, and what have you? They have to play a role in what we are looking to do here. And so, to answer your question, the effect on the children is enormous, and every case will be different depending on the understanding of the parents in question. If they have that value system that allows them to co-parent to the extent possible, the negative consequences will be minimized. But if they don't have that, they come from totally different backgrounds, of course, they will not be able to co-parent. And when two parents are not communicating at the same level, the children will take advantage of it. The children do take advantage of it. They can call one parent and say X, Y, Z, and call them and say, because they know the parents are not communicating. So when we talk about educating our community, these are some of the things that, okay, the two of you married, you can't do it again, but let us teach you how you can help your children to do better. If that is what we achieve, we would have done something. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nkechi, what's your take on this? How does it affect children? You've been through domestic violence, and presently you're going through stalking. That is out of this world. What's your take?
For me,
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, it's very bad. For my son has never lived with a man throughout his life because we were sent out by his biological father when he was 6 months. So my son has been living without a man in the house from 6 months to 18 years old now. And I had this rule: I never brought a man around my son, and I never brought a man into the house. So there's a lot of things that had gone through his mind. He doesn't have respect for men that are divorced or men that abuse their wife. My son doesn't have respect for them at all. And it has affected him in so many ways because my son is an athlete. He sees fathers bring their kids to sports. He never had that. And I tried as a mother to want to bring them together when he was, I think, 4 or 5 years old. And I would never forget what my son did. Like on a Christmas day, he wanted to talk to his father, and that was the last day he spoke to him and said, "You're a liar." Like the last speaker was saying that they would just come in with lies and bring up things. He was lying to the child behind me, and the child found out, and the child said, "No, you're the one lying, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. I've seen the whole thing, and I'm done with you." It affects them very bad. And I don't like that, but it's not my choice. It's not something that I choose as a mother. And it's psychologically, emotionally, financially, it does affect those kids. I never prayed for this. I never prayed. If somebody would tell me I'll be a divorced mother for over 18 years, I would never believe it, because I thought I lived a good life with a good man, and this happened. But let's be honest, you understand? When we're doing this kind of things, when it comes to domestic violence and all that, even the mother or even the father, we should always think of the child. Please do not bring a child to this world and make them go through things like this. But it's because it's not okay. Because those kids will be insulted at school. They will tell them how they don't have a mother and father or something, especially when it comes to a private school where they have mother and father come to everything. And you, the mother, is the only one that's coming every day. The kids would tease that child every time. So it is not okay. It is very, very psychologically painful for those kids. So it's bad. I'm going to tell you this. I've experienced it and I've seen it with my son.
Thank you for sharing. And that's another aspect we want to look at. Is a teenager. We have so many men on this platform and people around you, and see what we can do, how we can intervene even at this age. We'll see how we can do that. Dr. Ajagbe, kindly unmute.
Well, I have two comments. The first one is, I know definitely we would have people in our community who are academicians. Maybe they're not active on the Medical Mondays with Dr. O yet, but we do have, I'm sure we do have a lot of, Africans, even if they don't have to be Nigerians, but some people who are resourceful, particularly in humanities, and those who are in sociology, those who have, who have scientific, research scientific basis that can be very helpful for us to generate meaningful, not just data, but, comprehensible solutions that can be easily translated to changes in people's behavior. So we should look into that. For those of us who have, friends who are faculty members, who are professors in American universities, I think we could leverage on what they know and what resources they have as well as those students, our children who are going through master's program or PhD programs who are in sociology, for instance. It may be very helpful. So that's the first comment. The other comment I was going to make is that many of our children, even when they were in school, in elementary school, they've observed many of their own peers from separated families and divorced homes, and they go through through college, and they see some of their classmates and peers who that was the norm. I mean, in many of the colleges, you see this being something that is no longer hidden. It should no longer be a surprise to us that most of our children, or many of our children, let me not be too stringent about the statistics, because I don't have any number. I think a lot of our children are getting older, not wanting to be married, not seeing any reason why they should be married. And if you have children at the age of 34, 35, even up to 39, who are not even thinking about marriage, something is wrong, even whether the parents are together or not together, because they have observed that the trend of stability in marriage is very shaky. So I think while we're doing all this research, we are looking for solutions to help moving the community forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajagbe. Those people in the age range you just mentioned, though, what I've seen, what they've told me is that the guys tell me the young girls are just looking for money. It's money. They're not looking for love. They want to get married. The young girls are saying that the young men are not serious. They are not ready to settle. So we have to, that's another gap we need to bridge. Remember, when a platform, I think, make that comment, I will see how I'll bring her back. And then we need to bring all of these young ones and see how we can throw a party where they can all meet. Because if you say you're introducing them, they say, you think I can find my own husband? You think I can find my own wife? So we won't give them that. We'll let them, flow between themselves, and hopefully they would hook up. They will get married.
Yeah. Thanks for asking me. What I was trying to tell Prince is therapy is not just for the parents, it's also for the children. And he does need, because you find out long ago, I would talk in white folks saying, my daughter didn't go to therapy. We all thought, these silly white kids. But since COVID and prior to that, we realized that our kids who are here, they are not Nigerian. They come, they have problems at school. Their colleagues go to therapy. My daughter's friends, they were going to therapy since 10, 11. And I thought, what the heck is wrong with these white folks? So sometimes we try to avoid it. But I think Prince needs to look into therapy too, family therapy, because it really tries to bring out what you things from your body. That's what I meant. Therapy for the parents, but now for his kids.
And
thank
you so much, Dr. Nkuku. I can see you're passionate about this therapy, and thank God now they can be done virtually. But it's easier said than done because it takes two to tango. The ex-wife one with the children, so it takes two. We can only hope that would happen, but it does help and it does change things. But I would say something. What Prince said struck me a few times. When you have a kid with Down syndrome, and that is the parents that have sown into them. That is the parents that has helped. It is painful that child is being deprived of that parent. And I wonder what we can do about that. We have lawyers on here. I posted on the platform. Let me browse through if I can. Attorney Samson Dada, and help us know what can be done in this case, because it's already gone to court, and the judge has judged the mother should have this child, but the child wants to be with the father. Kindly unmute.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to give legal advice because I don't know the details. However,
no, just generally. Again, sir, on Medical Mondays, we don't establish such relationships. No legal relationships, no medical relationships. So it's just generally, is there anything that can be done generically?
Okay, let me kind of rephrase what, because I didn't join from the start. You're talking about in the case where the custody has been given to the ex-wife.
Yes, so this is the case where the ex-wife actually abandoned the children to the ex-husband, moved to another state, and then when it came to going through custody, they awarded the children to the ex-wife, who still abandoned them again.
Well,
still went to another state, left them in the state she was in, and they have one child who has Down syndrome who wants the dad.
Well, yeah, that's kind of odd because one is either the abandonment issue was
or not properly addressed
by the judges. Will look at what factors were involved, why that happened, and what the person, in this case the husband, is trying to accomplish in terms of keeping the children. Maybe the court found out that maybe he can actually, care for them properly, without their mom. Unfortunately, the mom is in another state. That's kind of odd. I've really not seen a situation where the person that abandoned the home and moved to another state is the person that is awarded either full custody. And again, I don't know what kind of custody it is, whether it's sole custody to the mother or joint custody. It can be either one. So,
Prince?
Yeah, maybe, attorney. So thank you so much.
We chat offline.
Yeah, we can chat offline on that. But the attorney is approaching this appropriately because he doesn't know some of the facts and the issue where we are now. The child is emancipated. We have a case of guardianship. We had joint conservatorship before he emancipated. He turns 18. I say to her, let's continue as co-parents, even though he has emancipated. She says, no, I want to go alone. She goes to court to get sole guardianship. I engage a lawyer. The court appointed a lawyer for the boy, but another lawyer happened to be a Nigerian woman. So the Nigerian woman goes to my ex-wife's house, who now tells that lawyer, oh, he has run away to California, he married another wife.
Dang.
The Nigerian woman now says, he ran away. He married another wife. Her report was that the man has gone. So they gave her, so nobody ever brought this boy. And I said, bring this boy and put me and him and his mother and his stepmother and see what will happen. They didn't want to do that because they know what will happen. So that's where we are.
In this case, it's a guardianship issue now, because
yes,
once the individual turns 18, he or she is deemed competent to decide whether he or she wants to live with one parent or the other one. Again, you have those professionals that were appointed by the judge or the court report back that you in this case was also absent. So it's more appropriate for either the mom that is either closer or more either in tune with the circumstances of the individual involved in this guardianship to have full guardianship. I mean, but again, one thing I can say is that it's not like final that you can't.
Thank you. So I wanted to say that it is not final. He has two brothers, one above, one below, and they know that their brother would rather be with me. So I'm bidding my time. At the right time, it will happen. I see him every month, and he does this every month. He wants to be with his father. So I have no doubt that in good time, the only thing, he's learning to talk someday, and guardianship is revisited every 18 months. It's not fine to take this offline, like Dr. O said. This is not the subject of this meeting, but there is progress in that direction. I'm confident. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you as always. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Atoni Murenike, also doctor, says, thanks for educating us on the definition of domestic violence, Prince Nkuku. Dr. Veronica echoed it that thanks, wonderful Prince, for educating us on this invisible form of abuse. So true. Great perspective that most of the time go unnoticed. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story, Prince. People are very appreciative on the platform that you have shared. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. But Abby in London, they're still up in London, listening, says she wonders why it is so rampant that spouses kill each other in the US, and those wives brought in from the home country to the UK call the police on their spouses. She thinks we need to advocate for counseling and empathetic listening. Abby, you sing into the choir. So I don't need to throw that to Prince Nkuku because he would agree. We have a lot of work to do in education, and thank God that even a month is separated for domestic violence. It's not enough. This is something we need to be doing all year long to educate. And Dr. Favor said the stigmatization associated with this issue is why men don't talk. Abby says, better to be stigmatized than to be brutally snuffed out. So thank you, Prince, for coming out, because there are lots of men on this platform that are suffering more than you, that have gone through hell, and they are still going through it. I know story of a man who went to another man crying. This is in recent times, but they're not coming out, so they can't get help. Dr. Gulaye, kindly unmute. You have your hand raised, so you have reference.
All righty. So I just wanted to answer the question about why this is so prevalent in the U.S. U.S. is a war country. It's a violent society. And the proliferation of guns doesn't make it any easier. That's why it's much more here than in any other place. That's it.
So the Democrats are working on gun control, and this is the time we need to get our voices heard. So I'm just saying, I'm not a politician. I'm not going wacko politics on you, but we need to think seriously about who we vote for this election, who is for guns and who is not, because it is true, there has to be some control. Otherwise, this thing will be going rampant. For me, and I'm allowed freedom of speech, Kamala is my person, because she will she will see to her needs. So, Nkuku Nebe said they agree about the hypocrisy, pride that people have that cause them not to talk. And Olu from iPad said that so many homes are broken, especially when you talk about finances. Nigerian men are mean. She says, especially when the woman is working. That I've seen that a lot. So Nigerian men, if there are mean Nigerian men, please tune it down tonight so you're not mean anymore. Nkechi said lots of culture shock. And one of his expectations. That's one of the things that cause these problems. It starts with frequent dialogues to raise awareness when we want to curb this. Abby again said, girls in Nigeria now are more westernized than the Westerners. And she wonders why people choose to go back home to pick a wife or husband after being here for a number of years. Most times those relationships fail. By the way, Abby's an attorney, and I know she's talking from the attorney cap there too. Haman in London said, just sent some information on domestic violence in Nigeria. There's plenty of research on the internet via Google. So if we're interested in these things, in this data in Nigeria, he's suggesting that we go on Google, we'll find it. Just before we started the program tonight, we have one of our brothers who was on earlier before 7, and he's in Nigeria as we speak. He dialed in from Nigeria, and there was a husband and wife fighting. He had to leave his bedroom to go into the living room so that he can numb the noise from their fighting as we were about to start this program. So this is real. And they say there's a lot of it in Nigeria as we speak. This is a situation that has come to light in England with the Metropolitan Police giving advice that some might state not the best in advising Nigerian wives on how to deal with their Nigerian partners. So I have to talk to Haman more about that to understand what kind of advice they're giving. Nkechi ventures to advise us that, and you know, she's a survivor. Domestic violence is a complex issue influenced by various factors that can be found in many societies, including in some African countries. Here are a few key factors. Cultural norms. In some cultures, traditional beliefs about gender roles may contribute to the acceptance of violence against women. Economic factors. Poverty and economic stress can increase tensions within households, which may escalate into violence. We all need to come together as communities to create more awareness to help break this silence. And by the way, Nkechi, if you can, bring up the flyer, Nkechi is having a program on the 20th of this month. It's a virtual program that we are all invited to. I will send it to you by email. I'll send it by WhatsApp, so that we can support where a lot of education will be had and more discussion will be had on this October 20th. Aramide also. Aramide, are you on the platform? She has a program coming up at Laurel in Maryland. That's
yes, I'm here.
So if you can put up your flyer, put it in the chat box, please. You guys, please put them in the chat box so that people can sign in. The program is at Laurel to create awareness. Aramide is also a survivor, amazing, amazing young woman. Survivor of domestic violence as a child and also as a married woman. So Abby says, one of the consequences we are observing in UK is that the youths are declaring themselves to be gay. Bingo at involvement of faith organizations. Problem is that a lot of our faith leaders need to be trained to address these issues. You are a minister, Abby, so we can assist you in that education. Dr. Buka says both parents and children need therapy. She had said that. And Attorney Richard Williams, thanks to you again, Prince Nkuku, for sharing your story. He said it's very informative. And Haman said, interesting presentation on a topic that has recently come to prominence in London specifically. Abby says therapy should kick in once problems or issues are identified before it deteriorates to the point of separation. And Sister Wumi Kamsin says, Prince Nkuku, great job, and thanks for sharing your story. Praying for God's intervention. Amen. Temitope Ade says, but why will the judge give such judgment concerning the kids? So thank God it gave us more light on that. The wife had an excellent Nigerian lawyer. So when you need lawyers, go for the Nigerian ones. They're excellent. Bimbola, don't let it beat you. We know why. She got a good Nigerian lawyer. And Aman says, thanks for your responses to his questions. Nkechi said, children who grow up in environments where violence is prevalent may be more likely to accept such behaviors in their own relationships in life. She prays every day for her son and other children undergoing domestic violence at home. She says she knows that personally. Attorney Samson, that's one of my sons, says, thank you for calling on him to speak. However, our emeritus president, and if you guys don't know, Attorney Richard Williams, who spoke, president, has already addressed the matter thoroughly. Thank you, Samuel. In light of this, she respectfully yield the floor. Thank you. And Cassandra says, thank you for sharing. Dr. Booker says, Prince, it is a financial issue for your wife. Your wife wants to receive the funds, and that is still sharing, Prince. It is not easy to share your life story with others. And Haman says, just a comment that the effects on children is devastating, leading to crime, educationally, prospects, etc. It is prevalent with regard to deaths and serious injury that is perpetrated on all women in the UK. Thank you, Sister Clementina. She says, Kamala is hers too. It is a no-brainer with the alternative. Dr. Gulaye, kindly unmute. She just made my night. Thank you, Sister Clementina. Kindly unmute, Dr. Gulaye. You have your hand raised, no? Is it an accident? Okay. When you are able, unmute, and I'll stop reading. Dr. Veronica says...
I wanted you to read it out.
Which
Sorry.
one?
The comments.
Which one? Yours?
Yes.
I'm not there yet?
There. I don't think so. I just put it not long ago.
Hold on there. Don't leave.
But I also wanted to say to Prince that if you've ever heard of the concept of black sheep, you will know that somebody coming from a difficult background doesn't mean they're going to be difficult people. Sometimes, so you might want to think about that because you sounded a little bit classist there at the beginning. Just because she's from rich people do get divorced too. The rich also cry.
I think I give an example of a rich man that killed his wife.
That classes.
Yeah, I don't believe. I don't want to think so.
Okay. My parents separated when I was 3 months old, and this is my 35th year with the same couple.
Black sheep.
Yeah, black sheep.
Thank you. Thank you. So it says you're black sheep.
Yes, I am. I know that.
Antonio Yenusi. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm jumping in to defend Prince because I heard him say several times that he wasn't talking about background in terms of how much money people had or anything. He said he differentiated. It doesn't matter whether they're rich or they're poor or this or that. I think he was careful to let us know that he wasn't really differentiating between poor and rich people. So, I'm defending him.
And you know what? Prince, you got a lawyer. She's an attorney. I'll send you her contact. I told you, Nigerian lawyer, that's the way to go. You've got a lawyer right there. And you know what?
I'm Fosu's alumni, so you know that's good stuff, right? I
have to thank you so much.
Thank you for defending Prince. So Dr. Veronica says, we all have to tone down in generalizing, please. Not all Nigerian men are mean. Individualized experiences, please. Behaviors actually have no culture. It is the person and can be any color and race. Right on the money. I agree with Dr. Veronica, 100%. Ebio said is quite big here. And Dr. Gulaye says they go to Nigeria to marry because they want submissive wives, submissive in quotes. But we've read earlier that the Nigerian girls are more westernized now than even the Westerners. So Evie says she very much doubts that any woman is fully submissive. I disagree with you. My mother is an example. She was 100% submissive, and you were witness. And you labeled me Ruth Abokoku. Isn't that what you called me? So your statement is wrong. So please, Aramide has posted, click on that link for the program on the 19th. Haman says, Marriage rates are decreasing across the board in the UK, not with the Nigerian community. So Nigerians are still getting married. That is refreshing for me. Nkechi, you have your hand raised. You can unmute and come on.
Okay.
You have preference when you raise your hand.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say something about submissiveness. I disagree with the person that said that. I'm speaking, we need to be talking about individualism, right? My case, I got married very early age. And my parents.
Let's see your face if you're going to tell us that story.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So my case, I married very early to the man that we are divorced to. I was very submissive. When I mean submissive, in the sense that when I came to the US, you know how you cook Nigerian food, that it takes time. This man will not eat second day soup. Never in life. He will not eat it. And then when you're cooking, not cook rice and stew. It's not like I was working, I was going to school, right? And I never spent one Sunday. I started Saturday and Sunday at home. You understand? When you're cooking jollof rice, you have to make moi moi and put chicken and put plantain and put salad. That is all for one food, as if you're doing party. And you're going to do it in the afternoon, you're going to do it in the night. That did not stop him from being abusive. So submissiveness does not come with marriage sometimes. It comes with that domestic violence comes individually and the person's behavior. We Nigerian women, we are very submissive when it comes to marriage because none of us wants to be divorced. It is not a good thing. So I disagree with that person.
Thank you so much for elaborating so eloquently because I agree with you. And, you know, she knows she's a lawyer and she just wanted to make whatever point she wanted to make there at that time. Chike Nweke, kindly unmute.
Yes. I've had a very refreshing evening listening in on this very topical and interesting conversation. I'm soaking in all the knowledge and all the wisdom nuggets that have flown this evening. I really want to commend Dr. O for this forum. This is my first time joining in. The views have been very, very refreshing. I had thrown light on different aspects of this very sad problem. We, in Life and Times, did a special on this a couple of years ago, and you're just hitting the core points of this problem as a mixture of role conflict, cultural differences, all kinds of things. But, you know, I reserve my comment. I'm a visitor today. I'm listening. I'm soaking in all the wisdom nuggets. Next time I'll be in a position to make even informed comment on what's going on Medical Monday with Dr. O. Thank you so much for this excellent idea and work you're doing. God bless.
Thank you so much. And God bless you. You are now family. You're now Medical Mondays family. That's the way it goes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Welcome.
And thank you, my good friend and brother, Prince Nkuku, for sharing, pouring out your heart. He's a man with strength. He's a man with wisdom. He's a strong man that can do that. We do what you have just done this evening.
Yeah. Thank you. Olu iPad says, wait a minute, Chike, tap.
Yes.
Tap send. Are you in California already?
I'm in California.
Already?
Yes, sir.
He just left Maryland.
I left Maryland.
Everybody on this platform, if you don't know about tap send, please send me a message in the chat box, or so, you know, my text, email, or whatever is the best way to send money to Nigeria. Very secured, excellent 2 steps. Mr. Lawal introduced me to. Thank you. Okay, this is another brain in Nigeria, and I have to talk about it immediately, quickly, because we have a lot of brains amongst us. And when our people are doing great things, I mean, we have to talk about it, and we have to support, excelled and distinguish themselves in this area. Please, let's support tap send.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for Dr. O. You don't even know how much I respect you. I kept gushing about you. This woman here that was in Maryland in 2-3 hours. She was in my hotel to see me. You know, despite her very, very busy schedule, he had to reroute everything to come and see me. Come on now. I deeply respect you. You're a big sister. We are family, and everything I can do to help publicly now. Thank you so much for for your wisdom and leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Olu iPad said, she believes in some of us, she believes that some of us read about a military man, or we read about a military man from Nigeria that came from Niger after settling his wife here in Florida, and she became popular with her hair braiding, that she doesn't respect the husband and will not listen, and became very arrogant to the husband, that this was unfaithful, and this very unfaithful day, that after behaving to him as usual, he took the gun, killed her, and called the police. Ouch. This issue needs God's intervention and for both parties to be respectful to each other. Bottom line, God will help us. Amen. She's right. The Bible even says that we should honor one another. You're right. Wow. Attorney Oyenusi says she already spoke to her daughter who graduated from Princeton to help us obtain information about university contacts. Thank you. And she says, Prince, thanks for sharing. Yes, and you will be part of that healing, because you are now a lawyer that will be representing him. You started the representation tonight on Medical Mondays with Dr. O. We saw it. So you have to represent him. You have to join the team of lawyers, because it is team we're going to get now. He's not going to get one lawyer. So you have to be with the team. Dr. Alu said, woman, it is expected that you submit yourself to your husband. Yes, to your own husband. And your is 100% right. And he said he come in peace. So I hope nobody wants to want to fight him. Said yes, but that is not what is presented when the couples attend counseling. The counseling that Wahala is starting. Sister Shade says, thank you for sharing your story, Prince Maduka. It is well. And Aman said the context with regard to Nigerian women is in the article he sent. I'll send that article out. And Aramide said she's a survivor, that she sees with her male clients. They either witnessed abuse and became adult abusers, or they be conflict resolution, or how to effectively defend themselves in a healthily. They witnessed abuse and grew up feeling powerless. Thank you so much for that input. Aramide is a survivor of domestic violence. She has spoken to us on this platform. She happens also to be a counselor. She survived, so you can contact her, because she's an excellent resource. Dr. Mayowa says, thanks for sharing your story, Prince. She prays all work out for you and your family. With God, all things are possible. Amen. My uncle, this is my real uncle here. Uncle Jesus of marriage. That is true. Understanding. Nkuruka Nebe says they agree on the individual differences takes bringing up and good mentorship throughout lifetime. True. Abby says she thinks I missed Haman's point concerning Nigerian marriages. Cooking is one aspect of being submissive. Tone of voice is what we find in counseling to be part of the problem. And she says she talks from the standpoint of a professional over as Haman has somewhat confirmed. These are live cases here and in the UK. And okay, the couples present. Ivy, I don't know what you're trying to tell her. She said she can't type right. She's very sleepy. She's in Britain.
Said that the couples are getting things mixed up, and what am I saying? The couples get it wrong from counseling sessions, and that's not the case, because that's not what counseling is about. It's not. And working through the problems and the issues, they find out that it's how one talks to the other that's a major problem that started or kickstarted the problems most of the time.
I didn't say it. I was reading out what.
Yeah, you read that because counselor had nothing to do with the issues. They come to get help.
Okay, so when they come to get help, isn't it the counselor's job to figure out what's going on and give appropriate counseling?
Job. That's advice and guidance. Over here, it's broken down. It's different.
Okay, over here it's different. Over here in the US, it's different.
In the US,
yes, we counsel differently.
It's lumped together. Here, it's separated.
Sorry?
Here in the UK, it's separated. When you go for counseling, it's more or less what in the US we call mediation. You talk through your issues and you bring out your own solutions from talking to the counselor. You start to identify what the problems are by talking.
Okay, it's different here. We do it together. And I have counselors on the point.
And then we have advice. You come, you present your issues, and then the advisor will exercises to work on till you resolve the issue if it's resolvable. And it's not all the time that it's resolvable, but at least they can end up. Community here is really terrible. It's like, maybe it's the Jackpot syndrome. They just want to get here. Once they get here, they turn on each other, call the police. That the police had to come.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that bad.
Wow.
Because it's so senseless. And over there, they're killing each other.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And counseling is what we all need. I don't know if it's the diet and that goes a long way in helping these couples. That's what we're finding. But like Nkechi rightfully stated, we're such a quick to lay, and then using the children as weapon and bargaining chips. It's just horrible. Anyway, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. And thank you for staying up. Thank you for participating. We have different counseling techniques here combined. Sister Lola said yes, that she saw the UK police video. She's confirming what you said. That is sad. The Lord would help us to fix the problem in our community. So with that being said, thank you so much, Prince Nkuku. This has been awesome. We've learned to intervene, and this is fantastic. And this is the third session of our domestic violence. And, we're coming up with, I think we were in shock the first 2 sessions. And now today, we were able to touch and all of that. So this has been fantastic. But before I ask you, Prince, so please leave us with your parting words, parting advice. I want to remind us on this platform that today would have been Dr. Bill's birthday. Dr. William, do we all remember him?
Yeah.
Medical Monday, home to be with the Lord last year that I went to his funeral in New York. Today would have been his birthday. So if I may ask that we just have a minute of silence for him before we proceed. May his soul continue to rest in perfect peace. Thank you. Dr. Jagbe, you have your hand raised. Can you unmute?
Yes. I think just to throw a little bit more light into domestic violence, I think tonight it seems that everything centered around intimate partner violence, as opposed to generally talking about. We know that parents can be violent against their own children, and children can be violent against their parents, and even siblings can be violent against one another. So I think the spectrum of domestic violence is not just right only on intimate partner violence. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Dr. Jagbe. We addressed that also last week. Our State Attorney, Aisha Briefboy, spoke about all of that aspect. Tonight, we wanted to focus Hawk. And probably because they are strong, probably because they feel it's shameful, probably because they just accept, because this is a weaker vessel who is just misbehaving. And, for different reasons, who knows, a lot more reasons. And so we appreciate Prince Maduka Nkuku for coming out, sharing with us and enlightening us more. And thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Jagbe, for reminding us of all of those other aspects of domestic violence. We hear more of them before the month is over. So Dr. Nkuku, if you please leave us with your closing advice.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. O. I want to thank you for doing what you do. And this subject here, as we all know, is one that we do need to attack frontally. And we are beginning to do that through your platform. Once accept that we have a problem, then we are on the path to finding a solution to that problem. And this problem here, we will be able to address it accordingly. We now know that men do to get abused. And each and every one of us here, we have friends. You can tell when your friend is going through a situation. You just have to go a little bit step further and find out if it's something that they need help with. Encourage them to open up, and they'll be surprised that, like most people have said here, some little intervention, third-party intervention can help. And I hope that our faith-based organizations will step up, because they have more control of us as individuals. If they wade into a family problem, they are more than likely able to provide some solutions, albeit interim. And with that, I'm going to give the mic back to you, Dr. O. Thank you so much. And I thank everybody for their presence and their contributions this evening. I yield, Dr. O.
Thank you so very much. God bless you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Till we meet again next week, please be safe. COVID is still around. Flu